allegedly, tomorrow has also been declared a protest day. Yeah. The only hope for Kenyans it would be that these guys finally get to sit at the table and finally have these talks, because things are not looking too good on the streets. Also, just tightening up onto security during days like these, so that people who are taking advantage of these particular situations will just be stopped at their heels. Yeah. Now, we'll finish off with the curious case of Pastor Ezekiel, as LSK launches investigations on Ombeta, explains allowing him to represent Pastor Ezekiel. Now, Ombeta at a time last week came out and decried and said you shouldn't have been so quick or the police rather shouldn't have been so quick to arrest Pastor Ezekiel. Now, the LSK on Tuesday, May 2nd, explained lawyer Cliff Ombeta's legal status after an uproar ensued when he represented Pastor Ezekiel Odero in court. LSK further noted that Ombeta was accused of practicing law in 2022 and 2023 without a practicing certificate. Now, the CEO and Secretary Florence Muturi noted that she said, "We note that there are allegations of the advocate having practiced without a practicing certificate for the first part of the year and as far as last year." Yes, now the allegations are being investigated, and when sufficient evidence is collected, a formal complaint against the advocate will be lodged with the advocate's disciplinary tribunal. According to the society, Ombeta's status was on Tuesday, May 2nd morning, changed from inactive to active for 2023. How convenient. Now, LSK further detailed that the lawyer had filed for his practicing certificate for 2023. He reportedly tabled an application before the council on January 26, which was approved. He was also required to pay requisite fees, which he did on March 7th, making him eligible to apply for the practicing certificate 2023. They said the advocate paid for his practicing certificate on May 1st, 2023 at 4:36 p.m. and was issued a receipt via the portal on the same date. Furthermore, LSK noted that the system automatically activates the member of the next rollover, May 2nd, 2023. Ombeta, alongside his counterpart, Dansan Omari, was hired by the controversial Pastor Ezekiel Odero on Saturday, April 29th, to represent him in court, where he faced charges of terrorism, kidnapping, mass killing of followers, and indoctrination of the faithful. The duo joined Jared Magolo, who was already acting on behalf of the pastor. On Tuesday, May 2nd, the lawyers filed a petition before the Shanzu court asking the magistrate to free their client. Ezekiel sought to halt his 30-day detention, arguing that there was no reason to detain him any longer since the investigators were still reviewing the evidence against him. Omari argued the police claim to be collecting evidence on the preacher, yet they want to continue holding him. This is a complete violation of Pastor Ezekiel's rights. The police were ordered to detain him for 2 days, with his case set to be mentioned on Thursday, May 4th. All right. Let's see how it will go tomorrow. Yesterday, his protesters were outside of the court, chanting and dancing and singing, as you know, they were there in support of their leader. Right, that has been the roundup of the news this morning. Of course, you can comment on our WhatsApp number and let me know your thoughts on +254 788 380030, and let's chop it up. We're also on that comment section of YouTube. That's youtube.com/@iconradioke. You can also start sending in your requests. Again, my lines are open. Let me know what exactly you would like to listen to. For now, we get back into the music at exactly 8:14 a.m. This is a Kenyan Hour, and we're all about your wellness this Wednesday. So let's get into the topics that affect your mental health. punchline, kibao, koflani, mao, mao. Oh, loving the music coming out of Breakfast Jam this morning. Of course, you can let me know what you'd like to listen to this Wednesday right here on the Breakfast Jam. Again, we're still taking it nice and spiritual. So if you want that, even that Kenyan jam that's going to just ease your soul, let me know, because we are living in crazy, crazy times. Speaking of crazy times, this images of cults have just been taking over. Now, guys, I've channeled with LGBTQIA, and I've gone straight into the cult conversation because, of course, it is harrowing just to see everything that's coming out of Shakahola. Now, Netflix just released a documentary just the other day on Waco. I am like, anytime anything that comes in regards to that story, I always watch. Like, first of all, I have a fascination with cults, just how they are manipulated, just how they think, how they are convinced into just living a different way of life, to the point that somebody can even forget about themselves, forget about their families, and just adopt all of this and decide to move on with these cults, to the detriment of even just others around them. If you're a person who watches love and hip hop like myself, Mimi Faust talked heavily about the Church of Scientology. Okay, yeah, the Scientology Church, whatever it's called. And she said her mother was heavily into it, and had to sign a 1,000-year contract of devotion of their life to this particular church. And the indoctrinations were so crazy that they would use shock therapy as some sort of way of them getting to understand what they are being prophesied to. And she eventually just had to leave, and she was, she officially had to sign that she's left the church. She has no association, therefore no help, no aid would come to her in forms of this church, and that she would have to break ties completely with her mother, who still existed in the church. There's so many cults that have turned up basically throughout the years. If you're somebody who follows it like me, Netflix is just full of these documentaries. Probably I'll give you a list at some point. But then, what exactly is a cult? Now, the word cult was never benign in the history of religious movements. In terms of the text, a cult is defined as a group of typically characterized by distinctive ritual and beliefs to its devotion to a god or person, isolation from the surrounding evil culture, and a charismatic leader. When a person hears that word, most likely they would refer to Charles Manson. Manson is a former cult leader and American criminal who led the cult called Manson Family, which committed a series of murders in the late 1960s. Manson is a quintessential example of how persuasion occurs in cults. Manson is a communicator of the cult, which is one of the persuasive elements of cult persuasion. He could be described as a charismatic leader who attracts and directs members in the cult. People began to trust in him and his credibility as a leader, and decided to join the Manson family. Now, there are so many other forms of cults. We also had one that was deemed to be a cult, the Finger of God, where there were so many Kenyan celebrities who had formed and kind of like joined this particular church. And again, it was alleged to be a cult. And the results were our very own beloved TV anchor, Esther Arunga, whose star was rising so high, now became the face of something that was damaged, somebody who was had lost their way. She was married to Quincy, a guy called Quincy, and they ended up forming their own political party. When that failed, they ended up moving to Australia, with them cutting out their family completely cutting off her family, getting a child, and eventually being implicated in the murder of that child. Especially the husband was seen to be the person behind all of that, and he was jailed in Australia for that exactly. I think she was released based on whatever findings they could have found, but she still is, I think, still trying to find her way in Australia, and her family is still not in complete contact with her. Now, in the past few years, a number of documentaries and TV shows have profiled different cults and high control groups, and we have heard of from so many people that would understand how to help loved ones who may be drawn to these organizations. Now, I don't know if you ever heard about the one called Maxim. I'm sorry, guy, me my fascination with these things. There's one called Maxim, and or no, not Maxim, Nexum, and it was a sex cult. It was a sex cult in the States. And again, they use the indoctrination of spiritualism and finding your next level of being spiritual. And again, this was one thing that attracted so many people from the politically elite to celebrities, and those are the people they targeted, and they made so much money out of devotion from these people. And some of them, like one of the actors from Smallville, ended up, brandishing some of these women across their pelvic area and being accused of heinous sexual abuse crimes, especially against also people who are deemed to be minors. Eventually, the cult leader was caught. So now, how does one begin to be connected to a cult or convinced to join? It is important to know that people don't join these groups. Also, how we define cult is instrumental in how we see these groups. Now, in reality, anyone can join a cultish high control group. The principles that apply to working with those who have been members of such groups are also helpful for those who have been in narcissistic relationships. A cult can consist of 2 people only. Groups use many methods to recruit new members. The faithful are recruited by religious groups then that go door to door, and college students are invited to retreat weekends. People may buy classes that promote self-help teachings, and often people are raised in groups joined by their parents. It's important to know that some of the differences between those who are first generation and those who are second generation members. As with other types of relational abuse, violent means are not usually used in the recruitment process. Love bombing is typical. This means that the new member is given a great deal of positive attention and support at first. Now, is there a way I can prevent someone from joining a cult? In a word, no. However, there are many things that a concerned loved one can do to maintain communication and connection with the group member. This may be difficult to do, but you'll need to refrain from criticism of your loved one's beliefs, trying to convince the person they are in a cult, or telling them, "I told you so." If they do leave, will be alienating and draw them closer or back to the group. Now, I have a personal experience with this. We had a relative who was living with us, very, very, very talented. Back in the days, were the days where you would allow relatives to come and go based on, how their status was. If there's somebody who needed to be educated, especially from my community, we would have relatives funneling in and out of the house because they would look to my parents as people who would be able to help them out, and they did not refuse to help them out. We had one particular cousin of mine who was very gifted, especially when it came to hair. I used to go to school looking my absolute best because I'd have my hair braided every time, looking absolutely fresh, and all my teachers would be in amazement of how great I looked, and this was due to her. And then she was, doing well in college. She was her path was set. And then all of a sudden she disappeared. Disappeared for years. People looked for her and could not find her. And finally, when she reappeared with these guys whose heads were completely bald and who had completely dominated her life. And my dad I remember he was so upset. Not only because she was the daughter of his brother, but also for how these guys had managed to completely monopolize her life to the point that she abandoned her family completely. So when they came to visit and finally tell my dad what was going on in a bid to kind of like quell whatever worries he had, they just made it worse. They made it completely worse. When they left his place, there was no doubt in his mind that this was a complete cult that she had gotten into. And the indoctrinations that they were talking about had nothing to do with what he had always instilled in her as she grew up in our home. So finally, she appeared years later, and her story is one I'm yet to find out, but it is one of survival. It is one of being a survivor out of a situation that she did not quite know what she was getting herself into. Now, when we come back, we'll be looking at how you can get somebody out of a cult, how you yourself can leave a cult if you are in one as well, and how to just get over your mental suffering from being in this particular cult. All right. I would love for you to just give me your comments on this particular topic on +254 788 380030, as well as the YouTube section over there. The comment section, let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to chop it up with you on that. But for now, we get back into the music as we continue on with the Kenyan Hour. Now, if you can clearly tell from that playlist, we are profiling CMB Prezzo. He's been prolific in his career. Love him or hate him, his music still stands the test of time. Now, nobody will believe you if you said you do not know who this person is, but you are not going to say that because any lover of music must have heard of Prezzo. Jackson Geshu Makini, otherwise known as CMB Prezzo, was born in Nairobi in the year 1990. A young man with an ambition, Prezzo made his way to the Kenyan music scene with a bang. His hip hop music was already taking him high. Then his work in the television shows Nairobi Diaries and Big Brother Africa took him even further, making him one of the top celebrities in our country. Right. Let's get back into our topic of the day, this Wellness Wednesdays, as we continue to talk about the effects of cults on your mental health. Now, we looked at how exactly you might be able to get into a cult, or somebody might be able to get into a cult. But now, the question is, how can you leave a cult? Now, there are a few counselors, coaches, and therapists who can help. In addition, there are organizations that offer education and support. If you are coming to the realization that you have been in a cult, it's important to remember that it takes a great deal of courage and personal integrity to separate yourself from the group. Many people will flood themselves with information and stories of abuse via books, websites, and films. Even though it may be an alien concept, basic self-care needs to be your primary focus at this time. Try to eat well, exercise, and talk to people outside the group. Realize that not everyone is going to understand you and what you have been through. Reclaim music, clothing, and activities you may have given up to become a member of the group. Give yourself opportunities for finding joy in everyday life. Try to refrain from immediately joining another group or religion. Give yourself time to unpack your experience in the group. I remember now when finally my cousin was getting herself out of this particular group and this particular phase of her life, she went back to what she loved, and that was braiding hair. And she was posting pictures of various work that she would do, whether it's braiding or weaving, and it of course warmed all of our hearts to see her getting back to who she was, slowly reclaiming her life. Now, what would you advise if the person wishes to continue in it? People who are happy in their membership usually aren't looking for outside advice. However, if you continue to offer a caring relationship rather than cutting them off, you can offer tangible evidence that their group wrongly accuses outsiders of not caring about them. Because this is usually the indoctrination of, we are the only ones who love you, we're the only ones who understand you, we're the only ones who care for you, and therefore you should remain with us because we're the only ones who have your interests at heart. But of course, letting them know that they are not alone, that they are indeed loved, is something that needs to be happening. Those affirmations need to be happening. Maybe experiencing depression, anxiety, PTSD. Important to see a professional if a person is seeking a diagnosis. However, at the same time, a great deal of wounding trauma takes place within groups and relationships of a high control nature. Beside the group dynamics as reflected in Lipton's criteria, they may have suffered physical, emotional, and or sexual abuse. As with any trauma survivor, take time and care if your recovery of your recovery when you seek help. Now, remember the indoctrination is so deep that even you'll find they'll have certain habits, like maybe waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to either pray or wash clothes or do certain rituals that they have been used to doing. So again, just study their behaviors, try to work with them and guide them out of it, but try to get them into a different routine. Remember, routine has been a part of their lives for a very long time, and the only way is to work with them and trying to like guide them through or away from that particular routine so they can get into a different way of life. Now, how do I convey that we disagree, but that I would like to remain in touch? Now, as you would with anyone with whom you disagree, respectfully acknowledge that you disagree, but you are still a friend or family member who cares about them. When we have a loved one about whom we are concerned, it's important to work on our own need to control others' behaviors and choices. Support groups can be quite helpful, as the situation is very similar to having a loved one who's engaged in addict behavior. At this time, it's not quite clear of any generalized group specific to the needs of those concerned in cult membership, especially here in this country. However, there are local groups that are listed that could actually help. Like I've always told you, we have counselors out there from the likes of Red Cross to Niskize to Usikimye who have toll-free numbers that you can call and get somebody to listen to you and probably direct you in the direction of the help that you may need. Now, for those who live against their wills or not, how hard is it for them to integrate into society after being manipulated? For most, it is very difficult. The group has been all for them. If the group practices shunning, the individual will lose all contact with family and friends. They will be on their own for everything now. Many do not seek support due to the suspicion of outsiders and authority figures, including doctors and psychotherapists, that the group instills in them. If the group outlawed going to college or improving oneself, may have a difficult time just supporting themselves and their family. So there's an encouragement to support to try to think outside the box. Survivors may need to use existing resources that don't have cult membership as a primary focus. Now, of course, people coming out into society, of course, they seek validation again. They had validation in one way or another in whatever cult they were in. But now they seek validation from the members of society that they are not indeed crazy, that they are not being looked down upon, that they're not being seen as outcasts because they chose a different way of life for a period of their time. So that integration, especially if you love that person, your help and slowly helping them navigate would be the best that you can do for this person, because again, they're still going through mental agony from switching from this particular situation they were in, where there were set rules, a set way of life, a set way of doing things, to where they have now their freedom to make their own choices and make them wisely. Again, help them navigate their way through it. Now, in terms of therapy, what's the average amount of time it usually takes for an ex-cultist to break whatever habits they had? It depends on whether the individual was traumatized via abuse and or neglect, in addition to the membership in the group. It can take anywhere from a few months to a few years with progressive trauma-informed therapy to recover. They're not just breaking bad habits, they are rewiring their brain to think differently now. Many therapists unintentionally minimize the effects of destructive group membership and miss asking the right questions to help former members recover. Self-awareness and education are vital. You have a right to work with a professional that understands your needs. It is helpful to ask specific questions about the practitioner's philosophy of the work. A trauma informed therapist, counselor, or coach will likely be open to educating themselves if they need to do that. It's not your job to educate them, but you can ask them to look at information about your former group online. All right. So, of course, just look for the right person to be able to handle this situation. Okay. It's okay to ask questions, to ask the therapist or the psychologist, whoever you may choose, counselor, if they have been specialized in this particular conversation and this particular work, or if they indeed they haven't, that if they'll be willing to expand their knowledge on this and basically again be at the point where they need to help this person. Because it's true, some people, when you go to some psychologists or some psychiatrists, they tend to look at things from their lens as opposed to the situation that they've been faced with. What I usually like seeing sometimes when I watch some of these movies or series or documentaries is that psychologists sometimes get cancelled themselves by other psychologists or psychiatrists, and they tend to talk about the cases that they may be handling, the frame of mind that they're in when they're handling this case, and also what they may be thinking or may be going through as they take it on. So if you have a psychologist who is of that particular frame of mind, then you're working with the right person. Again, it's good to do your due diligence before putting a person that you care about in front of somebody else who might be able to help them or should be able to help them. All right, I really hope now, those particular tips have helped you get a bigger insight into what a cult looks like, a person who has been in a cult looks like or tends to do, and how exactly you can help them. As of course, it's not an easy task at all. Again, I said I've been there. Our family has been there. Our relatives have been there. Our friends have been there. So it's good to at least try and educate yourself and be in a space where you get to know more about it so that you come from a point of knowledge as opposed to judgment. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and for others. All right, that has been our Wellness Wednesday topic. We're getting straight into the Dancehall Wednesdays at exactly 9:06 a.m. Get ready to whine in your seat if you're at work or whine on your way to work, because we're all about taking it back with music from the early 2000s. Keep it right here. And of course, send me your request. It doesn't have to be dancehall. Anything you'd like to listen to, I definitely got you covered. Keep it right here. This is The Breakfast Jam. And I'm your girl, Myra Maloba, the Afropunk Queen. to the ceiling with Isaac Blackman. We're all about that throwback therapy. Dancehall Wednesdays is the theme of the day. Of course, we're whining in our seats, and of course, wherever we are. Let me know what you like to listen to. I'll definitely play it for you. Also, made us like guys who could just send me videos. Send me a video of yourself trying to get down to that dancehall music in your room, in your place of work, as you walk down the streets. I would love to see just how you get down as you try to get through your day with that dancehall music. Because let me tell you, it's hard for me. Listen, I'm always just over here sweating it out, try and shake my booty in the chair. It doesn't work. So I'd love to see how you guys do it for yourselves. All right. Now, on to our first bit of entertainment news this morning. Now, hey, let me tell you, guy, I don't know if us black people just don't like ourselves. Oh, there's a big problem. As a brat and her wife, Jessica, choose a white sperm, or rather, they chose a white sperm donor. They say lone black donor looked like Jiminy Cricket. Yeah. Now, during a conversation with The Root, rapper Da Brat and her wife Jessica discussed the process of picking a sperm donor. The couple says they were surprised at the lack of black donors to choose from. They went through thousands of candidates and eventually narrowed down to 300 candidates, which only included one black donor. So Da Brat said, and that dude looked like Jiminy Cricket. I was like, I'm sorry, but that wasn't going to be my choice. Now, if you're one who likes, who likes the fairy tales of back in the day, Jiminy Cricket was Pinocchio's aide. He was the one who will always be in Pinocchio's ear on what to do, not to tell a lie, steer him in the right direction. And this is what this particular black man is being likened to. Now, according to The Root, the couple ultimately went with a white donor. I think we did a great job with picking. He's handsome, he's tall, and I think he's going to look beautiful with my wife's egg, said Da Brat. Now, if you have been following this particular story, the wife was the one who gave up her embryo for this particular IVF exercise. Also, was it IVF or insemination? One of those two. Also, the wife has given birth already a total of 3 times. So she already has 3 kids. So this is Da Brat's first time actually having the experience of giving birth to a child. This is the first time she'd be carrying a child and giving birth to a child, which her wife felt is an experience every woman should have. So that is why they went with the decision of her being the person to be able to carry their child. So yeah, it's a very interesting statement. I don't know why they would go with Jiminy Cricket, but yeah, that is exactly what they conveyed as they looked for sperm donors. Now, I don't know. I don't know how exactly this white person looked like for them to qualify. It would be nice if we saw a picture of, whoever that is after she gives birth, so we can check out the list and see, and yeah, this guy was a better check because he didn't look like Jiminy Cricket. What kind of a statement is that? Now, if I can read out some of the comments that were put out there. Some of the comments said, y'all could have just called Nick. Ouch. That is Nick Cannon. Okay. Yeah. Now, another person said, "Dear black men, you're beautiful." I think that should be the thing that should be carried out. The messages should be carried out this week, because that's just too much disparagement or whatever. That's a word, or whatever their thoughts could be. So another person is advocating for Nick Cannon yet again. Of course, everybody's again. It's just the comments are just full of Nick Cannon should have been there to do the job. One person said, joke gonna be on them when the baby come out looking like Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, that would be a tragedy because, well, let me tell you, the manifestation of some words. Okay. Another one said, if you all wanted a biracial baby, just say that. I'm thinking the same thing. They wanted a child with, silky hair. They wanted a child with fair skin because you can tell both of them already have, they're a little bit, more caramel skinned as compared to, most people. So they could have tried to, just make it a little bit lighter by making the tone a little bit, more swayed towards the fair skin. Okay. So that is what I thought to begin with. They just wanted a biracial child. They could have just said that without having to insult another person altogether to be able to make their case. As in, I don't care what the baby looks like when they come out, but you don't have to go to those lengths in order to make your case. Now, speaking of other baby news, Mr. Samido. Oh, Samido. You never ever stay out of the news. As in, like, he always gives us things. He always feeds us with things to talk about. And it is exactly the case over here, as Samido's wife, Eden Derito, has left many confused after sharing a photo of her heavily pregnant. She shares the photo at a time when her husband Samido said he was done having kids as he is quote unquote tired. The other thing that is kind of like puzzling is the fact that Samido was all over the socials with baby mama number 2. Are Ede and Samido married? Okay, that's I'm not sure, but Karen Nyamu and Samido are out there, PDA 100%. I think all of us saw that last video in which they were full on, caressing and groping each other or in public. And clearly Karen Nyamu had no problem sharing that particular video. Samido had no problem starring in that video as well. It's just absolutely scandalous, my people. Absolutely scandalous. And again, it's just fodder for more gossip, fodder for more entertainment. I don't know if these guys are in cahoots because you can't keep on talking in entertainment news like that, in the gossip columns like that. I think these guys have devised a way, and maybe prove me if I'm wrong later in life, have devised a way to continue to make themselves relevant in the public eye, therefore increasing on her popularity, that's Edenderitu, increasing on Samido's popularity and Karen's popularity, so that they forever have Jobo at the end of the day. I don't know. I feel like now it's a publicity stunt because, guy, make it make sense. Make it make sense. I don't understand this. I don't understand what's happening here. Now, I want to sample some of the comments. Of course, somebody said, Karen Nyamu pia apewe kitu, watu waende draw. Hey, wait. The man said he was done with kids. All right, somebody else said, Nani amewasho ati tuko confused. Another question asked, Nani wako confused na mimba za wenyewe. Another person said, getting pregnant will make him cheat more and you can't make him stay because of pregnancy. Hey, that's clearly a team whoever. Another person said, after kila kitu ina happen, Kenya at the moment, unaona hii ndio itatu confuse, surely. One other person said, Nani, how wako confused, ama hamjui biology. All right. Kenyans are saying we are not confused. Leave us alone. You press remain confused by your cellos. We are not in your same group or category of people. We are not confused as to how things work, who might have done it. There is no need to go on Jerry Springer or try to figure out what this exactly could look like, because everybody knows what exactly happened. All right. Yeah, I would love again to hear your thoughts on this. Be sure to hit me up at +254 788 380030. Of course, that comment section right there on Icon Radio YouTube channel. That's at Icon Radio K. Let me know your thoughts. And of course, send in your request and let me know what you'd love to listen to. I got you covered. But for now, we get back into the music as we continue on with this Dancehall Wednesdays. Keep it here. Yes, Mr. Bombastic himself. That was Shaggy with the song Bombastic. Of course, taking you back with that classic. Of course, we're taking in your last bit because we only have like 10 minutes to go. But we got you covered. Let them coming in very, very fast. And we just might squeeze them in before we finish off. Now, on to the last bit of our entertainment news and on to more pregnancy news as Kenyans are wondering what is going on with Vesidika's pregnancy. Now, Kenyans are posing many questions to socialite Vesidika, who still insists she is pregnant. Many of our fans are trying to calculate her due date based on her announcement last year and insisting she has given birth but waiting for something to happen before she does the reveal. Vera announced her pregnancy in December last year and was said to be about 7 months pregnant. To date, she should have delivered her son, but Vera insists that it is not so. 4 days ago, she claimed that she is still very much pregnant. Yeah, when people are doing the math is not mathing. I was wondering, it's gonna be what one big world event. She delivering uku, the coming of Christ. As in guys are just like, what's going on? Guys are wondering why she's over here keeping it such a big secret as whether she's given birth or not. Because of course, if indeed, you know, she was pregnant by now, she would have given birth. Remember when they were shooting Real Housewives of Nairobi, which has been shot for quite some time, she was heavily pregnant during that time, very heavily pregnant. Coming into the premiere of that series, also heavily pregnant. So by now, yenyewe, Buku gestation period, it only takes like 9 months for real. Okay, so it's at 10 if you're pushing it. But as in like, it's time, girl. It's time for you to do that reveal. You make your life public, then we are involved. We as your relatives, your in-laws, all of us are involved. The one thing we do know is we have witnessed that she has probably split from baby dads. They claimed they were married. I'm not too sure about that because there hasn't been proof as of yet that they are married. But married nowadays has different connotations, different meanings. So maybe, I don't know. Probably they are. But one thing's for sure, this baby should be up by now. But again, I've learned to never ask too many questions when it comes to pregnancies, when it comes to babies. You don't know what somebody could be going through mentally. So sometimes just give somebody that breathing room, and when she's ready, she'll come out and tell you, Allah, the world is not ending yet. Now, we have Vivian, the artist, finally coming out and basically just kind of like speaking on her breakup. And she gave an exclusive, and she gave an exclusive to Mpasho. And she had a message to her ex-husband and manager, Sam West, a month after their nasty breakup. I don't know if we have that clip ready. All right, we still have a few minutes before we have it ready. But yes, remember now they publicly got engaged. When you look at that engagement, it kind of looked like she was not really with this Tono. Kind of looked like she was not really feeling it. Kind of looked like he could have done it at a different date, because he did it on Citizen. I think it was 10 over 10 during an interview, and he came out with the ring. She didn't look much too enthused. So, I was shocked to find out that they actually had a wedding and actually got married. Sam West was somebody who seemed to be prolific and was doing well for himself. So was she at that time, with her career still is. So of course it was highly publicized. Sam West has gone to do on other projects, including within the charity sector. But it seems like it was a very nasty breakup, and she just attributes it to probably them just not being compatible enough for it to work out. And she gave different and varying reasons as to why, after she finally unleashed her new boyfriend. But of course, the public thing is always to wish well for each other and be okay with each other. But now she is saying kind of spilling the beans as to probably what she was looking for and what she didn't find. Let's listen to this.
Very patient. He has to be able to hold room for me as a woman based on the characteristics I have as a woman, right? My femininity, regards to sometimes I'm feeling emotions, sometimes I'm on my periods, I'm like, nataka kukula sijui, just not spoil me but hold room. Unaelewa, asikuwe na ile ni madem, you know, these men of nowadays like saying that. So I was telling a friend of mine, sasa na sisi madem ndio tupo mnataka. God made two species, male and the female. Okay, there are others nowadays, but primarily there were two.
Yeah.
So very kind, very patient, holds room for me, emotionally mature. That means they can also express themselves emotionally, they have bandwidth, and then forgives quickly.
Yes.
You know, not someone who wants Vivian to be a certain way, to be, if you want someone, endo utengeneze kiti, it will never change.
Yeah.
But human beings, we grow. And most importantly, for God to reveal this person, if he's there.
Yes.
If he's there. But right now, single, in a relationship, that's not the goal. The goal is my purpose, my gifts, the things that God wants me to do to inspire women out there who would sustain a 10-year career, to keep rebuilding. I was left with nothing, but I've still restarted. I'm still here. So unless you decide to die, no one can kill you. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Unless you decide to die, no one can kill you.
Yeah.
Could you kindly look at the camera and just tell him something?
I would tell him, wow, just he's a child of God, and I have no control over anything, you know, and I have no desire to control anything. I'm just now focusing on my life, and that's all. At least we have two. We have so many beautiful things. Like if you listen to that song, it's a beautiful song. Vivian sings beautifully as always. So focusing on the things that are good and that are multiplying, and looking at it as a season. It was a season, and for some reason, but I don't have the explanations. If you ask anyone who's gone through a separation, they don't have the explanations. Sometimes you don't know, because you can't really explain it. Maybe in 3 years' time, Lisa, I'll know. But right now, it's easier to just accept and move with what is moving. And please support my music, guys. I'm a single mother. I'm only support.
And of course, on that flow, we did get the chorus to rhythm and flow.
Yeah. So are we gonna put this on TikTok?
We are.
Okay.
We want a chorus first.
Chorus. So the chorus. Have you managed to download? Okay.
Right. So listening to that, first of all, people who talk about themselves in the people talk about themselves in the third person. Like, why? I thought that was something for the 80s. Like, guy, please, just stop. It's so archaic to do that. Yeah, you know, like, Myra is working so hard. Myra has to wake up early in the morning. And Myra is trying to bring you the best in dancehall music. That's what Myra tries to do. Like, seriously, please, just stop it. I'm sorry. But you could tell she's still going through a lot of healing. She's going through a lot of healing. She's going through the process of still trying to get over this breakup. If you noted, she said that aliachwa bila, but she's rebuilding her life. You know, as long as you're not dead, you'll be fine. I also liked that, what she said about that, because of course no situation is permanent under heaven or on earth. No situation is permanent. Also, she noted that she's a single mother of a child, so also giving note to her particular situation that she has found herself in. So I think it's still alluding to the fact that she still needs to be financially in the best place, and that's why she's appealing to people to take in her music, listen to her music, buy her music, and of course support her in whichever way possible. So Vivian, sorry I had to do that, but Vivian, I like it. She came out boldly and said the situation as it is. She said what she wasn't getting and hoped to have gotten. Of course, there are two sides to every story, because she even asked for forgiveness to happen quickly. So, of course, there were things that probably that were a bit tumultuous in that relationship. But she's not hiding away from her truth. So I applaud her for that 100%. She keeps her head high. Again, no situation is permanent. And she'll get out of this stronger, wiser, healthier, happier. On that note, And on this on this Wellness Wednesdays, I would like to leave you on that one. And when we come back tomorrow. For now, Adulting Thursdays, and there's a particular conversation I'd like to get us deep into. If you're a parent, I need you to come on board. Please just tell everybody that we're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be chopping it up. My lines are going to be open. I'm going to be over here just taking in calls. So be sure to tune in tomorrow at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And let's get straight into it on the Breakfast Jam with great conversations, great music, and of course, entertainment to get your day started on the right note. And from me, Myra Maloba, it's goodbye.